everyone. I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. Shaquille, Madonna, Cher, Beyonce. The list of people known around the world by just their first names is not very long. Vanna is on it, as in Vanna White. That's right, the co-host for 37 years and more than 7,000 episodes of Wheel of Fortune. You may not know, she grew up along the Carolina coast before leaving at the age of 18 to chase her dream of becoming a TV star. I had the chance to talk to Vanna recently, and she told me despite the 4 decades of living on the West Coast, she's still a down-home Southern girl. Vanna White, native of northeastern South Carolina, grew up an hour from where I'm sitting here in Wilmington. Welcome to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I feel like I'm at home.
Well, you are at home because you're talking to all those people who remember a young lady born in North Myrtle Beach who rocketed to stardom. Talk to me a little bit about your memories of growing up in the North Myrtle Beach area and northeastern South Carolina, a long way from where you are right now.
It is, but I had a wonderful childhood growing up. It was a long time ago that I was a little girl, and during that time, we didn't even lock our doors. We would go out during the day, we would ride our bicycles and pick up Coke bottles, and sell those for whatever they were, 3 cents a piece, and come home for dinner. And I just had a lovely childhood, grew up right on the ocean, so we know how beautiful the Grand Strand is. Had a normal childhood. It was great.
Were you a beach bum as a kid?
Yes.
A lot of kids like to go to the beach during the summer, but not many get the chance to grow up on the beach. Did you do a lot of surfing? Talk to me about your time on the beach.
Yes, I did. I did a bunch of surfing, but I mainly laid out on the beach with the reflector and the baby oil and iodine. Yes, I did that. I'm sorry to say. So now today I wear sunscreen every single day.
What was the household like growing up? Talk to me about, I know your stepfather was in real estate, but talk to me about the household growing up. I know you had one brother who still, I believe, lives in the Charlotte area?
That is correct. Yes, I have a brother who's 3.5 years younger than me, and my dad worked in the post office for 30 years, then he retired. And we had, a normal childhood. We sat down to dinner every night at 6 o'clock. We all sat together and ate. And I also want to point out my dad is 94 years old, and I call him every single day.
I was going to ask you about that. That's your one tradition. You still do that now. That's awesome that you still have your dad after this many years.
Yes, it's wonderful to I just say hi and what's going on. It's the same conversation, but just to hear his voice makes me feel good.
And I heard he always says, "I love you more."
How did you know that? He does.
I do my research.
You
Which
do.
includes, I believe you and your brother worked at an Italian restaurant for a time before you decided to go away from North Myrtle?
Tony's Restaurant, yes, which is not there anymore, unfortunately, but I have fond memories of growing up.
What were your aspirations as a teenager, Vanna? Obviously, we all know what has happened with your career, but what were your aspirations? What did you want to do for a career before the modeling came up and then the trip to Los Angeles?
I wanted to be a movie star. From the time I was 10 years old, I remember watching a show called Rat Patrol on television, which was a show that was on TV back then. Mm-hmm. And my mother said, "Oh, that's your uncle, Christopher George." It's like, my uncle? I have an uncle on TV? I want to be on TV. So from that day forward, I just wanted to be in front of a camera. And nothing changed my mind. And when I turned 18, I decided, growing up in a small town, when I was growing up, the population was about 5,000 people there. So I decided to move to Atlanta, which was only about 6 hours away, because I wasn't sure how I could handle a big city growing up in a small town. Mm-hmm. But I moved to Atlanta. I went to a fashion college, fashion and design, still wanted to pursue acting. So I was there for a few years. And in 1980, I moved to Los Angeles to become a star.
Can you take me back to that that first week when you were in LA, I imagine there was some anxiety, some trepidation. What did you do before maybe that first break came along?
Well, I struggled a lot. I moved to Los Angeles with a girlfriend in a 20-foot U-Haul truck with all our belongings in the back of it, with $1,000 to my name. We found an apartment together. It was $600 each, so I had $400 left over. $300, I bought a little white Pinto car, used car, and I immediately got a job as a waitress so I could pay the bills. I slept on the floor too. It didn't have furniture or anything, but I was following my dream.
I imagine you probably tell those kind of stories to those who you speak to, because you and I are about the same age, and when I go in and I talk to students who want to get into broadcasting or newscasting, they say, I want to be an anchor, or I want to be on TV, but a lot of them don't realize that it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of those nights where you struggle before you actually reach the pinnacle of whatever the career is.
I agree, absolutely. And I always say to them, don't give up. Follow your dream, whatever it is, and do not give up. You can do it.
Were there times where you almost gave up?
Absolutely. I would go on 100 interviews before I would get a little job. And of course I got discouraged, but I did not give up. I just said, I've got to do it. I'm going to get the next one.
And how many were there before you got that opportunity? I'm going to ask you about the audition for Wheel, but how many were there? Do you remember ones that you thought you had, didn't get, and remember ones that you bombed and ended up did get?
Kind of all of what you're saying, yes. It's like, I did so good, I know I'm going to get this one, I wouldn't get it. I probably went on thousands, seriously. It was over several years, and then finally I auditioned for Wheel of Fortune. And of course, I didn't think I had a chance. I auditioned along with 200 other girls, and sure enough, I was the lucky one.
Were you ever told after that audition what it was that gave you that opportunity? Because you may not know that day, but maybe years later somebody said, oh yeah, I thought you had it, whatever it is. Did you ever get that explanation later?
Well, Merv Griffin, who is the man who hired me, he was the producer of the show, said I turned the letters better than anyone else.
Good enough, right?
I don't know, whatever. I'm just so happy, and God bless him that he chose me.
You lost your mom to ovarian cancer. I did as well. Oh. My mom passed away from ovarian cancer. My wife is a breast cancer survivor. I know that you have a lot of cancer in your family.
Yes.
But I also know that you do a lot for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and specifically, I believe, to treat children with cancer. Was your mom's case the impetus to get into that and really be a champion for St. Jude's?
I think so. Cancer, of course, is prevalent in my family, so I want to help whoever I can, do whatever I can. And I feel that St. Jude is a place that doesn't turn anyone away. They have amazing care, and they also have an amazing research program. They have come up with so many medicines that have helped so many people. So for some reason, they just touched me. I went to visit them in Memphis, and I fell in love. So we became, that became my charity.
And you've donated, the last I saw, about almost $2 million over the years through that, and met a lot of patients. I've seen a lot of videos of you talking to the patients, and boy, they're just so glad and so gracious for your help.
Well, it warms my heart more than anything. I have to say, I have been there a few times just to visit patients and give them my support, so it always is one of the highlights of the year for me.
Do you remember the daytime version of Wheel before you got the job?
I do.
I do as well. I remember Chuck Woolery and Susan Stafford being on the daytime version. A lot of the young ladies and gentlemen who I work with in the newsroom here obviously don't remember the daytime version of that.
Yes.
But were you a fan of it before you had the chance to get on there?
I was a big fan. As a matter of fact, I was such a big fan, I wrote in to be a contestant on the show. Could I please come in and be a contestant? They wrote back to me and said, if you're ever in the Los Angeles area, please give us a call and you can come in and audition.
And I know you were on The Price is Right. You never got on the Wheel, though, right?
No, I never did. I never did. But that kind of worked out.
Yeah,
for the best.
I think so as well.
But yes, I was on Price is Right. I just went to a taping of it, and they just choose from the audience, and I happen to be a lucky contestant that day, even though I didn't win a doggone thing.
Again, I think that things worked out pretty well for you in the long run.
Well, speaking of that, let me mention the place where they shoot Price is Right was the same place we shoot Wheel of Fortune back in the day.
The same
and
studio?
Bob Barker and I have the exact same dressing room.
That's awesome. How
Isn't
things
that
come all the way
something?
around.
Yes.
When you were growing up in the South Carolina area, did you ever make it up to Wilmington that often? Did you ever come up this way?
I did. Don't you have the battleship there?
We do, yes.
Yes. I have pictures, I believe, somewhere of me on that battleship when I was little. Beautiful area. Love it. And by the way, it's only 55 minutes. It's not an hour.
It is. And there's a lot of great golf courses in between where you grew up and where I'm sitting right now.
We love that.
Yeah, we do. I know you've been asked this, but do you know what the secret is to wheel success? It's hangman with a wheel and prizes, basically. But what is the success of the show? Why has it resonated for 30 some odd years?
I honestly do not have an answer for you. All I can say is it's a family show that everyone of all ages enjoys, and generations, from great grandmothers to newborns. The little babies love watching the wheel go around, and I also think it's such a family show and there's so many memories that have tied families together with it. So it's just kind of part of our world.
Yeah, it's become really that fixture. I've known it as a syndicated show for the better part of 30 years now, being in the news business. When I first got into it, we would sit there after our dinner break and watch Pat and Vanna in between our dinner break and guess the puzzles. And I was, mid-20s at the time, and it seems to just have resonated for so long. You recently got a chance to see it, though, from the other side. After being on one side of the studio, you ended up hosting. Now, I know I've seen again some interviews of you. You really were scared for Pat's health, though, it seemed to me, correct?
Of course. In 73 years, he's never been in the hospital, and I show up at work one day, and Pat's in the hospital about to have surgery. It's like, what? No way. He's so healthy. It was just a random thing of a blocked intestine that happened to him. So the producer came and said, hey, how do you feel about hosting the show to fill in for Pat till he comes back? And I was petrified, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's like being first baseman and them telling you you're going to have to pitch that day. I don't know how to pitch.
Right.
Really? So, but I did it. And I was very nervous, and it's okay. I felt I had to be there for Pat and fill in for him, and it all worked out great. He's back. He's healthy. I'm back at my puzzle board. All is good.
But you also had a little bit of fun with it. You had Mickey and Minnie over there helping you turn the letters, and you even had, I think, Pat's daughter there, right?
Yes, she did do a week of shows, Maggie, and she did a great job. She really did. It's hard for her to step into that position too. I know my job looks easy, but you have to pay attention, and you have to know. I don't know how to describe it unless you're standing there, but it's harder than it looks. So she did a great job.
What's one thing about Wheel that people don't know? I mean, I know there's a lot of things like you've never worn the same dress twice, and the wheel is about, several hundred pounds in weight. But what's something that most of us don't know about Wheel of Fortune?
I would say the people that are sitting in the audience often say, it seems so much smaller in person, the set. On camera, it seems very big, but in person, it looks smaller to them. So other than that, what you see is what you get on the show. You don't hear the funny jokes that Pat tells during the commercials.
Well, he's an old news guy, so I can only imagine what some of those commercial breaks are like.
He keeps us in stitches.
Yeah. You, over the years, have really shared some of your personal times through the show. When your fiance tragically passed away, you said that the fans really helped you get through that. Are the fans really family in an instance like that? Because they don't know you, you don't know them, but you've talked about how much that meant to you.
Yes, it did mean a lot, because when something tragic happens to anyone, you kind of feel like you're the only one that it's happened to. And then when you hear from so many people saying, oh, I have experienced the same thing, or I know what you're going through, I'm there to support you, it does help. It really does. And also, our show is a half hour of family fun, and I feel that we feel like we are a family together. We're in your living room every night, and we're bringing you joy. We're not, there's a lot of terrible stuff on TV right now, and it's nice to turn it on for some nice fun and to watch people win.
And I think that's it, because there is a winner every night.
Yes, there is. There's more than one winner. They're all winners.
Right.
They all walk home with at least $1,000. But that's the minimum they can walk away with. So, and we have given away the $1 million 3 times, and hopefully we'll do it again soon. But we've given away millions and millions and millions and billions of dollars over 37 years.
How have you tried to guard your personal life, though? I know you posted a picture right after the first of the year with your 2 kids in it, but you don't do a lot of that. So do you have to try to guard and at least keep some piece of Vanna personal?
I am a private person. I don't know. I just feel like people, I'm just not a social media type person. I feel more private. It's like, I don't necessarily have to show what I had for dinner last night. To me, it's like, I would feel that someone would find that boring, but then other people do like it. But I'm like, I don't want you to know what I had for dinner or whatever it may be. I don't want you to know that I'm having a vacation in Santa Barbara, or I don't know. It's just private because we are in the public eye so often. It's nice to have a little downtime where you don't have to be all made up and that kind of a thing. So I'm just kind of private that way.
Do you have something that you like to do that people might be surprised at? I mean, like me, I like to cut the grass. People say, why don't you let your people say, why don't you let your son do it? And my wife says, why don't you let Jonathan do it? Others say, why don't you hire a service to do your lawn? But for me, that's my private time. I put the headphones on, I get away from everybody, and that's like my time. Do you have Vanna time like that? Do you have something that you kind of get away to? Probably
reading. I enjoy reading all kinds of things. And I enjoy crocheting too.
Well, yeah, you've done that with your line. I know you do that everywhere. People have seen you do that everywhere, basically.
Right. But that's probably what I do better. I'm not a good cook. I don't like cooking. I like vacationing, going to unusual places and seeing places. I'm really kind of a normal person, really. Boring is a better word.
Who's been invited into living rooms for the better part of almost 40 years. So you're like the next door neighbor everybody wants to be with. You've been with the show and you've taken it all around the world. Is there some place you haven't been that you would like to do the show?
Oh my goodness, there's many places. You name it, I would go there. I can't say specifically. I mean, I've been to Italy. That's one of my favorite countries. And Wheel hasn't been there. But I haven't been to Australia. It would be fun to go there. We've been to pretty much every major city in the United States, which is always fun because from my point of view, I get to see the highlights of each city. Or if we're in Alaska, I get to stand on a glacier and just where most people don't. Or if I'm in Seattle, I'm on top of the Space Needle, literally on top of the Space Needle. So I have an advantage when we do these shoots to see the big highlights of each city.
You've written a book. You've obviously had a successful career. You've voiced characters in some productions. You've even, I guess, been executive producer of your brother's a film out of your brother's studio, I believe, in Charlotte, right?
Yes. My brother does short films, and yes, I'm very supportive of him, and I think he does a great job. So yes, I will. They call me executive producer, but he's the one that does all the work.
I saw that, but my question, what haven't you done that you would like to do professionally? Is there something that you're still yearning to do that hopefully you get the opportunity to do?
That's an interesting question. I have to think about that one. I've been doing the show for, like you said, almost 40 years. Maybe it's time for me to, once the show is done, I'm not going anywhere, by the way. No,
Good.
No, I'm here. I love my job. I love what I do. But after that, I don't know, maybe I'll just enjoy life a little bit. My kids are in their 20s, and I'm assuming in the next 5 or 10 years they'll be having their own children. So it'll be nice to be a grandma that hangs out with the kids, with the grandkids.
Neither one of your children have gone in, I don't think, to the TV industry. Is that a kind of a bummer to you?
No, I wanted them to follow their hearts, whatever it may be. My son is an organic farmer. He loves doing that. And my daughter is about to graduate, and she's going into art, photography, writing, not quite sure. She's not quite sure which direction. So whatever it is, I want them to be happy. And that's the most important thing in anyone's life. Follow your dream, as I said before. Do what you want to do and don't give up. Pursue it.
I do want to share one story with you, and I know your time is valuable, and I do thank you for taking this. My wife has a dress that you wore on the air one night.
No.
She does. And she wore it, but after you wore it on the air that night, you at the end of the show apparently had some time, and you talked about, it was long sleeve, and you talked about how great it was because the studio is always so cold. And that just tickled my wife because she has the same dress you did.
I love it. That's great. I love it.
Do you hear those stories often?
Not like that, no. I love that, especially dresses. I don't know. I mean, I do wear a different dress every day, and those dresses are available, in the world. So it's nice to hear that your wife has one of them. Yep,
and and especially, I think the neat thing, same dress as Vanna, but the neat thing is when you talked about how good it was and it was cold in the studio, because my wife is always cold too. So that's why she got it for long sleeve purposes.
That's so perfect because I don't wear a lot of long sleeves. That's why I'm always so cold.
There you go. I think I may have the one question that I don't think anybody has ever asked you.
Oh gosh, should I be nervous?
Nope, it's going to be easy. Here's the question. What's the one question that nobody has ever asked you that you wish they would ask you?
Good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that, and I don't even think I have an answer for you.
Is there part of your life that you really don't get a chance to talk about that you want to talk about? I know you have the yarn, and I know the proceeds go to St. Jude's, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because of all the great work. But what's a part of Vanna's life that people don't know about that you're proud of?
You know what? I think people don't, maybe they do know. I really am just a normal person. I dress up on the show with, all kinds of jewelry and high heels and beautiful gowns and such. But I'm really a down-home Southern girl from South Carolina. And that's it.
How often do you get back here to the East Coast?
Pretty often, several times a year. I get home at least 2 times a year. But anytime I'm in the neighborhood or anytime I'm on the East Coast, I stop and visit my dad, for sure.
Any other places that you make it a point to stop in case anybody's listening? They might hang out there and hope to see Vanna?
Ooh, I have to think about that too. It just depends on my mood or how close I am to something. I love your food. I love, love, love. I miss that more than anything. And you know what? The hospitality and the Southern accent. I love it. I love it. I feel at home, and it will always be my home.
Well, every night at 7 p.m. right here on WECT, Pat and Vanna are a staple in thousands of households and millions of households all across the country. I have wanted to do this interview because of your importance in southeastern North Carolina and northeastern South Carolina. And I know your time is valuable. Thank you so much, Vanna, for taking some time today and talking to, obviously, I'm going to say one of your fans, but also somebody who really respects you for all the stuff that you've done and the things that you do off the air as well.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
A big thank you to Vanna White for sparing some of her valuable time to sit down and talk with us for this week's podcast. You can watch her every night on WECT, straight up at 7 o'clock. 37 years going strong on Wheel of Fortune, and she says she's going to keep doing it for many years to come. You want some behind-the-scenes stuff with Vanna? Well, go to wheeloffortune.com. Vanna has her own page on that website. She's also active on social media, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And oh, by the way, If you're ever in North Myrtle Beach, keep your eye out. You heard her. She comes back here at least twice a year. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please download and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. The more of them we have, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of One-on-One.